The night was colder than usual. The wind cut through the narrow streets like sharp blades, and the lamps along the road flickered weakly, throwing long shadows on the cracked pavements. In the middle of that lonely street walked a boy, thin, shivering, and barefoot. His clothes were old and torn, too small for his growing body, and his skin carried the roughness of someone who had seen hunger far too often in his hand. He clutched a few coins, his last coins. They were small, dull pieces of metal, but to him they meant survival. They meant maybe a small piece of bread or a warm drink. Something to keep the ache in his stomach quiet for one more night. The boy walked slowly, his eyes scanning the shops that were still open. Most had already closed for the night. The few that remained open were bright with food on display: fresh bread, steaming bowls of soup, roasted meat. He could smell it, his mouth watering as he passed by. But he knew he could not afford any of it. His coins were too few. As he walked, he thought of his mother. She used to tell him, "Son, even the smallest kindness will return to you in ways you cannot imagine." Her voice still lived in his heart, even though she was gone. He repeated her words like a prayer whenever his stomach cried in pain. The boy pressed the coins tighter in his hand. He whispered to himself, "Just a little bread. That's enough for tonight. Tomorrow will take care of itself." But fate had other plans. At the end of the street, near a small pharmacy, he saw them, an old couple. Their hair was white, their backs bent, their clothes just as poor as his. The man was coughing heavily, his chest shaking with each breath. The woman held his arm, tears in her tired eyes. She held out a small, empty purse to the shopkeeper. But the man behind the counter only shook his head. "We don't have enough," the woman pleaded. "Please, sir, he needs the medicine." The shopkeeper sighed. "I'm sorry. No money, no medicine." And with that, he turned his back. The boy stopped in his tracks. His heart tightened. He could see the desperation on the couple's faces. The woman was trembling. The man was struggling just to stay on his feet. They looked like they had no one in the world, no children, no family. He looked at his coins again. Just a few, not enough for both bread and medicine. Not enough for anything extra. These coins were his survival. If he gave them away, he would sleep hungry again tonight. He hesitated. His stomach growled loudly. He had not eaten properly for days. He knew what hunger did. It made the world spin, made his body weak, made his chest ache. If he gave away the coins, he would suffer again. But then he looked at the couple. The old man's cough echoed in the empty street, painful and sharp. The woman held him, whispering words of comfort. Though her own eyes carried fear, the boy's mother's words came back to him again, louder than before. "Even the smallest kindness will return to you." He took a deep breath, clenched his teeth, and stepped forward. "Excuse me," the boy said softly. His voice was weak, but it carried hope. The woman looked up, surprised. Her eyes widened when she saw the boy barefoot, thin, younger than her grandchildren might have been, if she had any. The boy opened his hand. The coins glimmered faintly in the light of the shop. "Take this," he whispered. "Buy the medicine?" The woman gasped. "No, child, no. This is yours. You need it." But the boy shook his head. "He needs it more." Before she could protest again, he placed the coins firmly in her hand and turned toward the shopkeeper. "Please," the boy said, "give them the medicine." The shopkeeper hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He took the coins and handed over a small bottle of medicine. The old man's hands trembled as he took it. His voice was broken, but he managed to whisper, "Thank you. Thank you, my boy." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She placed a shaking hand on the boy's shoulder. "May God bless you," she said. "We will never forget this." The boy only smiled faintly. His lips were dry, his stomach empty, but in that moment, his heart felt strangely full. He turned away before they could say more. He didn't want thanks. He didn't want praise. He only wanted them to be okay as he walked back into the dark street. The cold wind wrapped around him again. His stomach groaned in pain, but he tried to ignore it. He had no money now, No food waiting for him at home. It's only a small, empty room with thin walls. But deep inside, there was warmth. A warmth that hunger could not steal. He whispered to himself. Mother was right. Yet the night was not done with him. As the boy walked down the narrow alley toward his home, a shadow moved. Hidden in the darkness, a figure stood silently, watching him. The figure had seen everything: the boy's hesitation, his sacrifice, his act of kindness. The boy did not notice. He walked slowly, dragging his tired feet, lost in thoughts of his mother and the old couple. But the figure in the shadows did not move. The eyes followed him, burning with curiosity. Who was this boy who had nothing, yet gave everything? The boy disappeared into the night, unaware that his life was about to change forever. And the shadow kept watching. The boy's footsteps echoed softly against the stone street as he made his way back home. The night air was sharp, and the wind carried the bitter smell of smoke from faraway chimneys. He hugged his thin arms around his chest, trying to trap a little warmth, but the cold pressed harder, biting his skin. His stomach growled again, louder this time. The hunger felt like claws inside his belly, twisting and scratching. He had given away his last coins. He had nothing left, not even the hope of bread. But strangely, despite the pain, he also felt something he had not felt in many nights: peace. His heart was full, even if his stomach was empty. He thought again of the old couple. He imagined the woman's tears of gratitude, the old man's trembling hands clutching the medicine bottle. He thought of how their eyes shined with relief, like a small light had returned to them, and then he remembered his mother's words. The words he always carried: kindness always returns, son. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day it will come back to you in ways you cannot imagine. He whispered the words into the empty street, as though saying them aloud made them stronger. Kindness always returns. The boy's home was not really a home. It was a small, broken room at the far end of the alley. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked when it rained, and the floor was bare. But it was a place to lie down, a place to be alone. And that was enough for him. When he reached the door, he pushed it open carefully. The hinges creaked loudly in the silence of the night. Inside, the air was colder than outside, and darker too. There was no light, only shadows. The boy closed the door behind him and sat down on the wooden floor. He pulled his thin blanket around himself, but it did little to fight the cold. His stomach roared again, but there was no food, no coins, no way to silence it. He leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. For a moment, he tried to imagine the taste of warm bread. He pictured a bowl of hot soup, steam rising from it, filling the air with a smell of comfort. He almost smiled, but then the sharp ache in his stomach pulled him back to reality. Still, he whispered to himself, it was worth it, because deep inside, he knew if he had kept the coins, he might have eaten. But the old couple would have suffered. The thought of them in pain was worse than hunger. The boy curled up tighter under his blanket, trying to sleep. His body shook with the cold. His stomach fought against him, but his mind was strangely calm. For the first time in many nights, he did not feel completely hopeless. But outside, the street was not empty. The shadow from before was still there. The mysterious figure had followed him quietly, unseen, unheard. From the corner of the alley, the figure stood still, watching the small broken door where the boy now slept. The man's eyes narrowed as he remembered what he had seen. The boy giving away his last coins without hesitation, choosing kindness over survival. He was not an ordinary child. There was something rare in him, something the world did not see often. The man turned slowly and walked away, his footsteps silent. But in his mind, a decision had already begun to form. Inside the little room, the boy finally drifted into sleep. His dreams were strange. He saw his mother smiling, her hand resting gently on his head. She whispered again, kindness always returns. Then, in his dream, he heard a knock on the door loud, urgent. He opened his eyes suddenly. The dream was gone, but the sound remained. There was a real knock at the door. The boy froze. His heart started to race. Who could it be at this hour? He thought of the landlord. His rent was late again. He imagined the angry face of the man who often threatened to throw him out. The boy's hand shook. He was not ready to face more trouble. The knock came again, louder this time. The boy stood slowly, his legs weak, his body trembling. He walked toward the door, each step heavy with fear. He placed his hand on the wooden handle but did not open it yet. Another knock, and then a voice. Calm, deep, steady. Open the door, boy. The boy's breath caught in his throat. The voice was not the landlord's. It was someone else. Someone he did not know. He hesitated for a long moment, then pulled the door open just a little. The cold wind rushed in, and with it, the sight of a tall man standing in the dark. The man wore a long coat, his shoes polished, his hair neat. He looked nothing like the people from the poor alleys. His face was strong, his eyes sharp, and in his hand. He carried a cane not for weakness, but for style. The boy stepped back in fear. Who are you?" he whispered. The man looked down at him for a long time. His lips curved into something between a smile and a frown. "I saw what you did yesterday," the man said simply. His voice was calm, but it carried weight, like each word was chosen carefully. The boy's heart pounded in his chest. He did not understand. He wanted to ask what the man meant, but his voice would not come. The man leaned forward just a little. His eyes seemed to pierce through the darkness, straight into the boy's soul. "You gave away your last coins," the man said. "You saved 2 lives. And yet, here you are, hungry, cold, and alone." The boy's lips parted, but no words came. The man straightened again. He tapped his cane lightly on the ground. "I came here tonight because I do not believe in accidents. Everything happens for a reason. And you, boy, are the reason I am standing here." The boy swallowed hard. He did not know what to say. Was this man dangerous? Was he mocking him? Or was this something else entirely? The man reached into his coat pocket. The boy flinched, afraid. But what the man pulled out was not a weapon. It was a small white card. He held it out toward the boy. "Come find me tomorrow," he said. "I have something to show you." The boy stared at the card but did not take it. His hands trembled at his sides. The man's eyes softened, just for a moment. "Do not be afraid," he said quietly. "Kindness deserves to be rewarded." And with that, he placed the card on the step and turned away. His footsteps echoed as he disappeared into the night, leaving the boy frozen at the door, staring after him. The boy slowly bent down and picked up the card. His hands shook as he turned it over. On the front, in bold letters, was a name. A name he had heard whispered among the neighbors. A name that carried power, wealth, and mystery. The boy's eyes widened in shock. It was the name of a millionaire. And tomorrow, everything would change. The night passed slowly. The boy lay on the wooden floor of his little room, staring at the card in his hand. The letters on it seemed strange, almost unreal. He had heard that name before. It belonged to a man who lived in a mansion far beyond the alleys, a man people called untouchable, a millionaire. Why would a millionaire come to his broken door? Why would someone so powerful care about a poor boy with nothing? The boy turned the card over again and again, as though the answers would appear if he stared long enough. But no answers came, only questions. At last, sleep claimed him. It was a restless sleep, filled with dreams of shadows, coins falling from the sky, and a man's deep voice repeating, "Kindness deserves to be rewarded." When the first light of morning crept through the cracks in the wall, the boy's eyes opened. His body felt weak from hunger, but his mind was restless. He sat up, the card still lying beside him. For a long moment, he just stared at it. Then he whispered to himself, "Should I go? Or should I forget this?" He thought of the man's sharp eyes, the way his presence filled the night air. He thought of the way he said, "I saw what you did yesterday." Fear crept into the boy's chest. What if this was a trick? What if the man wanted something in return? And yet, something inside him whispered, "This is not ordinary. This is not chance." The boy pressed the card against his chest. "Mother," he whispered softly, What should I do? No answer came, only the silence of the room. The hours crawled by. His hunger grew sharper, his body heavier, but his heart refused to settle. Then it came, the knock. It was the same as last night, strong, steady, unshaken. The boy froze. His breath caught in his throat. Slowly he rose to his feet, his legs trembling beneath him. Another knock. Louder this time, he stepped to the door, his hand shaking as it rested on the handle. For a moment, he wanted to run, to hide, to pretend he was not there. But curiosity was stronger than fear. He pulled the door open, and there he was, the same man from last night. Tall, dressed in a suit that seemed untouched by dust, with sharp eyes that held both power and mystery. The boy's voice was barely a whisper. You came back." The man nodded slowly. "I told you I would." The boy stepped back, unsure. His heart beat fast. He wanted to ask why, but the words got lost on his lips. The man studied him quietly for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You gave away your last coins," he said. "You had nothing, yet you chose to help." The boy lowered his eyes, embarrassed. "It was nothing," he muttered. "Nothing." The man's voice was sharp, almost angry. "Do you know how rare that is? In a world where people take, you gave. Do not call it nothing." The boy looked up, startled. The man's eyes softened slightly. "Tell me," the man asked, "why did you do it?" The boy hesitated. Then, in a quiet voice, he answered, "Because they needed it more than me." The man's lips curved into a faint smile. A simple answer, but the truest I have heard in a long time. For a moment, silence filled the air. The boy shifted nervously, unsure what to do. Then the man reached into his pocket. The boy tensed, remembering last night, but again it was no weapon. This time, the man pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it out. "Take this." The boy reached out slowly and unfolded the paper. His eyes widened. It was an address, a mansion, written in neat letters. "Come here," the man said. "I want you to see something. I want to show you a world you do not know yet." The boy shook his head quickly. I cannot. I don't belong there." The man's voice grew firm. "Belonging is not about where you were born, boy. It is about what is inside you." The boy hesitated. His mind screamed at him to refuse, to run, to hide. But his heart whispered differently. This was not chance. This was something greater. The man leaned closer. "Do not waste this. Tomorrow, come." With that, he turned and walked away, his steps strong, his coat flowing behind him. The boy stood frozen at the door, clutching the paper in his trembling hands. His eyes followed the man until he disappeared around the corner. For a long time, the boy did not move. He looked at the address again and again, his mind filled with questions. Who was this man really? Why did he care? What waited for him in that mansion? The boy sat down slowly on the floor, the paper pressed to his chest. His stomach was empty, his body weak, but his heart pounded with something new. Hope, and yet. Hidden behind that hope was fear, because sometimes when doors open, they do not lead to safety. They lead to secrets, two truths, too heavy to carry, and deep down, the boy knew this man was not just a visitor, he was the beginning of something far greater, something that would change his life. Forever, the boy could not sleep that night. He lay on the cold wooden floor, clutching the folded paper with the mansion's address written on it. His thin blanket offered little comfort against the bitter night, and his stomach growled painfully. But his mind was too restless to care about hunger. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man's face, the sharp lines, the steady gaze, and the strange softness that appeared only for a moment when he spoke. "Come tomorrow," the man had said. "I want to show you something." The boy turned the paper in his hands again. Should I really go? He thought, what if it's a trick? What if I step into a place where I don't belong? But another voice inside him whispered softly, like his mother's. Sometimes fate knocks only once. Do not be afraid to answer. At last, exhaustion pulled him into a shallow sleep. His dreams were a mix of fear and wonder. He saw gates opening, halls filled with light, and a man's deep voice saying, "Belonging is not about where you are born, boy. It is about what is inside you." When dawn came, the boy rose weakly. He had no food, no energy, but determination carried his thin body forward. He washed his face with cold water from a broken jug, combed his hair with his fingers, and held the paper close to his chest. The journey to the mansion was long. He walked past crowded markets, where the smell of bread and roasted meat tortured his empty stomach. He passed children his age laughing and playing, their clothes neat and clean. He lowered his eyes, ashamed of his torn shirt and bare feet, but he did not stop. Hours passed until, finally, he reached the end of the city, and there it was taller than anything he had ever seen. The mansion. Its walls stretched high, shining white in the sunlight. Iron gates guarded the entrance, and behind them a wide garden bloomed with flowers brighter than any he had ever known. The house itself stood proud, its windows like eyes watching everything around it. The boy's heart pounded. He had never been so close to such wealth. His legs trembled, but he forced himself forward until he stood before the gates. 2 guards in dark uniforms crossed their arms, staring down at him. "What do you want, boy?" one of them barked. The boy swallowed hard. His voice shook as he held out the paper. I was told to come here." The guard frowned, snatched the paper, and read the address. He scoffed. "This is not for you. Run along." The boy's face burned with shame. He opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. He turned slowly, ready to walk away. Then a voice rang out. Strong, clear, commanding. "Let him in." The guards froze. Their eyes widened as they turned. The man from the alley, the millionaire, was standing at the top of the steps. His coat was gone, replaced with a dark suit that seemed to shine under the morning sun. He walked with a quiet authority, each step echoing across the stone courtyard. The boy's breath caught in his throat. The guards immediately straightened, their expressions shifting to respect. One of them opened the gate, bowing his head. "Yes, sir." The boy hesitated at the entrance, fear and awe battling inside him. The man extended his hand slightly. "Come," he said. "You are expected." With trembling steps, the boy entered. His bare feet touched the smooth stone path of the garden, so clean it felt strange beneath him. He looked around at the flowers, the fountains, the tall trees, all so alive, so rich, so different from the gray streets he knew. The man walked beside him in silence, leading him toward the mansion. When they reached the great wooden doors, 2 servants opened them at once. Bowing deeply, the boy gasped softly. Inside, the mansion glowed with light. Chandeliers sparkled above, marble floors stretched wide, and paintings filled the walls. Every corner spoke of wealth, history, and power. But what caught the boy's eyes most was a portrait. It hung in the center of the great hall, larger than life. A young boy's face stared out from the frame, his smile gentle, his eyes bright. The boy froze. His heart thudded dead. The boy in the painting looked like him. Not exactly, but close enough. Same dark skin, same wide eyes, same hopeful expression. The millionaire stopped beside him. His gaze lingered on the portrait, and for the first time, his strong face softened with sorrow. "That was my son," he said quietly. The boy turned to him slowly. "Unsure what to say, he was taken from me," the man continued, his voice low. "Too young. Too soon." The silence between them grew heavy. The boy looked back at the painting, then at the man. And in that moment, something passed between them, something unspoken. The man's eyes, usually sharp and unyielding, glistened with pain. But when he looked at the poor boy standing before him, there was something else too. Hope. "Maybe fate sent you here," the man whispered. Almost to himself, the boy shifted nervously. I don't understand you, Will," the man said firmly. "But first, you must answer me honestly." He turned fully, his gaze locking onto the boy. His eyes were not just sharp now, they were searching, piercing, as if they could see straight into the boy's soul. "Tell me," the man said slowly. "When you gave away your last coins, what did you feel? Regret or peace?" The boy swallowed hard. His lips trembled, but he managed to whisper, "Peace." The man nodded, as though this was the answer he already knew. For a long time he said nothing. He only looked at the boy, his eyes deep with thoughts the boy could not read. And then at last, the man spoke words that would change everything. "From today," he said, "your life will not be the same." The boy's eyes widened. His heart raced, but he did not yet know whether those words carried promise or danger. The words echoed in the boy's mind like thunder. "From today, your life will not be the same." He stared at the man, unsure if he should feel afraid or hopeful. The great mansion around him was silent. Yet the silence was heavy, like the walls themselves were waiting for what the man would say next. The boy shifted on his bare feet, clutching his hands together nervously. He wanted to speak, to ask what the man meant. But the weight of the moment held his tongue still. The millionaire's eyes softened slightly. "Come," he said, turning toward the grand staircase. "There is something you must see." The boy hesitated, then followed, his small steps echoing faintly against the marble floor. The staircase curved upward, lined with golden railings and portraits of people dressed in fine clothes, ancestors of great wealth, perhaps. The boy kept his eyes low, feeling smaller with each step. When they reached the second floor, the man led him down a long hallway. Sunlight streamed in through tall windows, casting warm light across red carpets and shining floors. The boy could see doors on both sides, each carved with patterns too fine for him to understand. Finally, the man stopped before a tall wooden door at the end of the hall. He opened it slowly. Inside was a room unlike any the boy had ever imagined. It was filled with bookshelves stretching to the ceiling, shelf packed with books of every size and color. A large desk stood near the window, polished so brightly it seemed to glow. And on the walls, instead of portraits of lords or ladies, there were maps, drawings, and framed poems. The boy's mouth opened slightly. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The man gave a small smile. "This was my son's room." The boy turned sharply toward him. The memory of the portrait downstairs came rushing back, the smiling boy who looked so much like him. The man walked slowly into the room, touching the edge of the desk with his hand. He loved this place. He would spend hours reading, dreaming, planning, until one day, fate stole him away. His voice broke slightly, though he quickly hid it behind a steady breath. The poor boy felt a strange ache in his chest. He did not know this son, yet somehow he felt connected. Perhaps it was the way the man spoke, or the way the portrait's eyes had seemed alive. The man turned and looked at him. "When I saw you in the streets, when I saw what you did with your last coins, I felt something I had not felt in years." The boy blinked. "What? What did you feel?" "Hope," the man said simply. The word filled the air, heavy and powerful. The boy's eyes widened. No one had ever used such a word when looking at him. To most people, he was nothing but a beggar, a street child, a shadow. But to this man, in this grand room, he was suddenly something more. The man took a step closer, his eyes serious. "I want to invite you into this house, not just as a guest, but as someone who belongs?" The boy froze. His breath caught in his throat. Belong here? In this world of gold and light? It seemed impossible. I don't understand," he stammered. "You will," the man said gently. "But you must trust me. Accept my invitation, and your life will change forever." The boy's heart pounded. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to run into the world the man offered. But fear tugged at him too. What if this is a dream? What if tomorrow I wake up back on the cold floor, hungry and alone? The man saw the doubt in his eyes. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, firm yet gentle. "Do not be afraid of kindness, boy. Sometimes the hardest thing is to accept it." The boy lowered his head. His lips trembled. "Why me? There are so many others. Stronger, smarter, better dressed. Why me? The man's eyes darkened, though not with anger, there with conviction. Because I saw you give away everything you had, not expecting anything in return. That kind of heart cannot be taught. It is rare, it is precious, and it must be protected. The boy's chest tightened. His eyes burned, though he tried not to cry. He had never heard words like these before. The man stepped back and motioned toward the desk. On it lay a small wooden box. He opened it and revealed a key inside, shining gold. This key opens a new room, the man said. A room that can be yours if you accept. No more cold streets. No more hunger. But with this gift comes responsibility. You must decide, will you step into this life or walk away? The boy stared at the key. It seemed to glow, almost calling to him. His hand shook as he reached out. Then stopped. Could he truly take it? Could a street boy accept something so grand? The silence stretched. The man's expression was calm, patient, but his eyes watched closely. Finally, the boy whispered, I want to accept. The man nodded slowly, as though he had expected this answer all along. Then, from this moment, you are no longer just a boy from the streets. You are part of something greater. He closed the boy's hand around the key. The boy felt its weight heavy, but not frightening. It was the weight of a door waiting to be opened. The man straightened, his voice firm. Tonight, you will dine at my table. Tomorrow, your new life begins. The boy's heart raced. Dine at his table? Sit where men of power sat. It felt unreal. Yet deep inside, a spark of courage flickered. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe. But as the boy held the key, unaware, a shadow moved quietly outside the mansions. Gates? Someone was watching. Someone who did not want him to belong. The golden key felt heavy in the boy's hand. He could not stop staring at it as the servant led him down the wide hallway. The polished floors reflected the glow of chandeliers above, and the boy's bare feet almost slipped on the smooth surface. Everything around him seemed grand. It was too far from the world he knew. But what truly made his heart pound was not the walls, nor the lights. It was the words the man had spoken. Tonight, you will dine at my table. The boy had never eaten at a proper table in his life. His meals were usually scraps gathered from streets, leftovers given with pity, or stale bread that barely filled his stomach. The thought of sitting across from the millionaire like an equal made him tremble with both excitement and fear. The servant stopped before a tall set of doors and pushed them open. The boy gasped. Inside stretched a dining hall larger than the alley where he slept at night. A long table, shining like polished stone, ran down the center. Golden candlesticks burned brightly, their flames casting warm light across the room. Plates of silver and glasses of crystal were set neatly. Waiting, and at the far end of the table, sat the man himself, the millionaire. He wore a dark suit again, but without the heavy coat. His posture was straight, his presence commanding, as though he belonged not just in this mansion, but in every space he entered. The boy hesitated at the doorway. Clutching the key in his hand, the man looked up, his gaze sharp, but not unkind. Come, he said. You are welcome here. The boy stepped forward slowly. Each movement felt heavy, like he was walking into a dream he might suddenly wake from. A servant pulled out a chair near the middle of the table. The boy sat down nervously, unsure of what to do with his hands. His eyes darted between the shining plates, the polished forks, and the glasses so clear they seemed like water frozen in shape. Soon, food was brought in: plates of roasted meat, bowls of steaming vegetables, baskets of warm bread. The smell alone made the boy's stomach twist with hunger. His mouth watered, but he sat still, afraid to move. The man noticed. Eat, he said firmly. You are not a beggar here. You are a guest. The boy hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached for a piece of bread. The warmth spread through his fingers, and when he took a bite, his eyes widened. Soft, fresh, nothing like the stale crusts he was used to. Tears burned his eyes before he could stop them. He quickly lowered his head, hoping no one saw, but the man saw. He did not comment, though. Instead, he cut a piece of meat and began eating himself, his movements calm and precise. For a while, the room was filled only with the sounds of silver on plates and the quiet crackle of candles. The boy ate slowly, trying not to appear greedy, though hunger urged him to devour everything in sight. Finally, the man spoke. His voice was steady, but there was something deeper behind it. "Do you know why I brought you here?" The boy froze with a piece of bread halfway to his mouth. He shook his head. The man leaned back slightly, studying him. "I have wealth. I have power. But both mean nothing without someone to share them with. My son. He was my pride, my heir. When I lost him, I lost more than a child. I lost purpose." The boy's throat tightened. He looked down at his plate, unsure what to say. The man's gaze sharpened. "But when I saw you, when I saw what you did for that old couple with nothing but your last coins, I remembered something. My son once told me, a man is measured not by what he keeps, but by what he gives." The boy looked up slowly. The man's eyes glistened with pain, but also with fire. "I want to see if fate brought you here for a reason. Maybe you are meant to remind me of what I lost. Or maybe you are meant to teach me something new." The boy swallowed hard. His voice trembled. I don't know what fate wants. I only know I was hungry, and they were sick. I couldn't walk away." The man's lips curved into the faintest smile. "That answer is enough." Silence returned for a while. The boy ate more, filling his stomach with food that felt almost too good to be real. But as he ate, he felt something strange. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. A chill crept over him. Slowly, he turned his head toward the tall windows at the far end of the dining hall, and for just a moment, he thought he saw movement, like a shadow slipping away from the glass. His hand froze on his plate. The man noticed his stillness. "What is it?" he asked. The boy hesitated. I thought someone was outside." The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He glanced toward the windows, then back at the boy. "This house has guards. You are safe here." The boy nodded, but his unease did not fade. After the meal ended, servants cleared the plates. The man rose from his chair. "Come with me." He led the boy down another hallway, past doors and windows, until they reached a smaller, quieter part of the mansion. Finally, he stopped before a door carved with simple patterns, not golden or grand, but calm and welcoming. He unlocked it with his own key, then pushed it open. Inside was a modest room with a soft bed, a small desk, and a window overlooking the garden. It was not as grand as the other rooms, but to the boy, it looked like paradise. "This will be yours," the man said. "Rest here tonight. Tomorrow, your lessons begin." The boy turned to him wide-eyed. "Lessons?" The man's eyes narrowed, though not unkindly. "Yes. If you are to stay here, you must learn not just how to live in this house, but how to carry yourself in the world. Wealth is a heavy crown, boy. It crushes those who wear it carelessly." The boy clutched the golden key tightly. His chest rose and fell quickly, his mind racing with questions he did not know how to ask. The man placed a hand on the doorframe, his eyes thoughtful. "Sleep well. Tomorrow may be the beginning of everything, or the test of everything." With that, he turned and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hall. The boy stepped inside. The bed looked too soft, too perfect, and when he touched it, he felt his heart ache. For once, he would not sleep on the cold ground. But as he lay down, staring at the ceiling, the unease from dinner returned. He could not shake the image of that shadow outside the window and deep in the darkness. Beyond the mansion walls, someone whispered to himself, "The boy has entered the lion's den. He will not last." The golden key felt heavy in the boy's hand. He could not stop staring at it as the servant led him down the wide hallway. The polished floors reflected the glow of chandeliers above, and the boy's bare feet almost slipped on the smooth surface. Everything around him seemed too grand, too far from the world he knew. But what truly made his heart pound was not the walls, nor the lights. It was the words the man had spoken. "Tonight, you will dine at my table." The boy had never eaten at a proper table in his life. His meals were usually scraps gathered from streets, leftovers given with pity, or stale bread that barely filled his stomach. The thought of sitting across from the millionaire like an equal made him tremble with both excitement and fear. The servant stopped before a tall set of doors and pushed them open. The boy gasped. Inside stretched a dining hall larger than the alley where he slept at night. A long table, shining like polished stone, ran down the center. Golden candlesticks burned brightly, their flames casting warm light across the room. Plates of silver and glasses of crystal were set neatly. Waiting, and at the far end of the table, sat the man himself, the millionaire. He wore a dark suit again, but without the heavy coat. His posture was straight, his presence commanding, as though he belonged not just in this mansion, but in every space he entered. The boy hesitated at the doorway. Clutching the key in his hand, the man looked up, his gaze sharp but not unkind. "Come," he said. "You are welcome here." The boy stepped forward slowly. Each movement felt heavy, like he was walking into a dream he might suddenly wake from. A servant pulled out a chair near the middle of the table. The boy sat down nervously, unsure of what to do with his hands. His eyes darted between the shining plates, the polished forks, and the glasses so clear they seemed like water frozen in shape. Soon, food was brought in: plates of roasted meat, bowls of steaming vegetables, baskets of warm bread. The smell alone made the boy's stomach twist with hunger. His mouth watered, but he sat still, afraid to move. The man noticed. "Eat," he said firmly. "You are not a beggar here. You are a guest." The boy hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached for a piece of bread. The warmth spread through his fingers, and when he took a bite, his eyes widened. Soft, fresh, nothing like the stale crusts he was used to. Tears burned his eyes before he could stop them. He quickly lowered his head, hoping no one saw, but the man saw. He did not comment, though. Instead, he cut a piece of meat and began eating himself, his movements calm and precise. For a while, the room was filled only with the sounds of silver on plates and the quiet crackle of candles. The boy ate slowly, trying not to appear greedy, though hunger urged him to devour everything in sight. Finally, the man spoke. His voice was steady, but there was something deeper behind it. "Do you know why I brought you here?" The boy froze with a piece of bread halfway to his mouth. He shook his head. The man leaned back slightly, studying him. "I have wealth. I have power. But both mean nothing without someone to share them with. My son. He was my pride, my heir. When I lost him, I lost more than a child. I lost purpose." The boy's throat tightened. He looked down at his plate, unsure what to say. The man's gaze sharpened. "But when I saw you, when I saw what you did for that old couple with nothing but your last coins, I remembered something. My son once told me, a man is measured not by what he keeps, but by what he gives." The boy looked up slowly. The man's eyes glistened with pain, but also with fire. "I want to see if fate brought you here for a reason. Maybe you are meant to remind me of what I lost. Or maybe you are meant to teach me something new." The boy swallowed hard. His voice trembled. I don't know what fate wants. I only know I was hungry, and they were sick. I couldn't walk away." The man's lips curved into the faintest smile. "That answer is enough." Silence returned for a while. The boy ate more, filling his stomach with food that felt almost too good to be real. But as he ate, felt something strange. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. A chill crept over him. Slowly, he turned his head toward the tall windows at the far end of the dining hall, and for just a moment, he thought he saw movement, like a shadow slipping away from the glass. His hand froze on his plate. The man noticed his stillness. "What is it?" he asked. The boy hesitated. I thought someone was outside." The man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He glanced toward the windows, then back at the boy. "This house has guards. You are safe here." The boy nodded, but his unease did not fade. After the meal ended, servants cleared the plates. The man rose from his chair. "Come with me." He led the boy down another hallway, past doors and windows, until they reached a smaller, quieter part of the mansion. Finally, he stopped before a door carved with simple patterns, not golden or grand, but calm and welcoming. He unlocked it with his own key, then pushed it open. Inside was a modest room with a soft bed, a small desk, and a window overlooking the garden. It was not as grand as the other rooms, but to the boy, it looked like paradise. "This will be yours," the man said. "Rest here tonight. Tomorrow, your lessons begin." The boy turned to him, wide-eyed. "Lessons?" The man's eyes narrowed, though not unkindly. "Yes. If you are to stay here, you must learn not just how to live in this house, but how to carry yourself in the world. Wealth is a heavy crown, boy. It crushes those who wear it carelessly." The boy clutched the golden key tightly. His chest rose and fell quickly, his mind racing with questions he did not know how to ask. The man placed a hand on the doorframe, his eyes thoughtful. "Sleep well. Tomorrow may be the beginning of everything, or the test of everything." With that, he turned and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hall. The boy stepped inside. The bed looked too soft, too perfect, and when he touched it, he felt his heart ache. For once, he would not sleep on the cold ground, but as he lay down, staring at the ceiling, the unease from dinner returned. He could not shake the image of that shadow outside the window and deep in the darkness. Beyond the mansion walls, someone whispered to himself, "The boy has entered the lion's den. He will not last." The boy woke up the next morning to the sound of birds. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The soft bed beneath him, the sunlight pouring through the tall window, the silence of a place untouched by street noise, it all felt like a dream. He rubbed his eyes, half expecting the alley walls to return, half expecting the cold floor beneath his thin blanket. But no, the soft mattress was real. The golden key on the desk was real, and so was the promise the millionaire had made. He sat up slowly, his stomach still full from the dinner of the night before. A strange warmth spread through him. For once, he wasn't waking up hungry. For once, he wasn't shivering. But then, another feeling crept in. Nervousness. The man had said, "Tomorrow, your lessons begin." What did that mean? Would there be tests? Would he fail? Would he be sent back to the streets if he wasn't good enough? A knock sounded at the door. The boy jumped. "Breakfast is ready," a servant's voice called. The boy hurried to dress in the same worn clothes he had arrived in. He looked at himself in the mirror above the desk hair, messy, shirt torn, skin thin, and tired. Shame burned inside him. How could someone like him belong in this house? Still, he stepped out into the hallway. Clutching the key in his pocket like a secret, the servant led him to a smaller dining room this time, where the millionaire was already seated. The man was reading a newspaper, his posture sharp and composed. When he saw the boy, he set the paper aside. "Sit," he said. The boy obeyed. Food was placed before him, warm porridge, fresh fruit, and milk. The boy ate quietly, afraid to spill a drop. After a while, the man spoke. "Today, your first lesson begins. Do you know what it will be?" The boy shook his head quickly. The man leaned forward slightly. His voice was firm but calm. "Respect. Respect for yourself and respect for others. Without it, wealth is dangerous. With it, even poverty carries dignity." The boy listened carefully, though the words felt heavy. "You will learn how to walk, how to speak, how to listen. These things matter more than gold. For a man who knows himself cannot be broken, no matter how the world tries." The boy lowered his eyes. "But I'm only a street boy. I don't know how to do any of that." The man's gaze sharpened. "That is why you will learn." He rose from the table. "Come." The boy followed him through the mansion until they reached a wide room with polished floors and tall windows. It was empty except for a large mirror along one wall. "This will be your classroom," the man said. The boy stared, confused. "But there's no books." The man gave the faintest smile. Not all lessons are in books. He stood tall, his hands behind his back. First, posture. Stand straight. Shoulders back. Look at yourself in the mirror. The boy did as he was told, though he felt awkward. His thin frame looked even smaller in the grand reflection. Again the man ordered. Straighter. You must not walk as though the world has beaten you, even if it has. The boy lifted his chin slightly. Better, the man said. Now voice. Speak clearly. Say your name. The boy hesitated. My name is... He trailed off, his voice weak. The man's eyes narrowed. Again, stronger. The world must hear you. The boy swallowed. My name is... He tried again, louder this time. The man nodded. Good. Remember this always. When you speak, you tell the world you exist. Do not whisper as though you don't belong. You belong. Say it until you believe it. The boy repeated his name, firmer each time, until the sound no longer trembled. Hours passed with lessons on walking, standing, greeting, and speaking. The boy's legs ached, his throat grew sore, but something inside him began to change. For the first time, he felt taller, not in body, but in spirit. By the time the lesson ended, sweat covered his forehead. He was exhausted, but also strangely proud. The man studied him closely. You learn quickly. That is good. But lessons are not only inside these walls. Come, it is time you see the world with new eyes. The boy frowned. Confusion but followed. They stepped outside the mansion into the bustling streets of the city. The boy shrank slightly, the noise and chaos reminding him of his old life. But the millionaire walked with confidence, every step commanding respect. People moved aside as he passed, whispering his name. Today, the man said quietly, you will walk beside me. You will not bow your head. You will not hide your face. You will walk as though you belong. The boy's heart pounded. He tried to copy the man's posture, back straight, chin up. His steps felt shaky at first, but then steadier. They passed through markets where vendors shouted and coins clinked. The boy's eyes darted nervously. The man's hand on his shoulder steadied him. Do not be afraid of eyes watching you, the man said. They will always watch. What matters is how you stand when they do. The boy nodded slowly. But then, in the crowd, he felt it again, that prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He turned quickly, scanning the faces, and there among the busy market-goers he saw him, a figure standing still while everyone else moved, a shadow hidden beneath a hood. Watching him, the boy froze. His breath caught. The man noticed. What is it? The boy whispered, He's here. The one from last night. Watching. The man's eyes flicked sharply toward the crowd. But by the time he looked, the figure was gone. The man's jaw tightened. His hand gripped the boy's shoulder more firmly. Stay close. Do not wander. The world is not as kind as this house. The boy nodded, fear trembling in his chest. They continued walking, but the boy could not shake the feeling of being followed. Every corner, every shadow seemed alive with unseen eyes. The lesson of the day was clear: to stand tall, to walk with dignity, to believe he belonged, but hidden among the crowd. Someone else was learning about him, watching his every move, and in the silence of his own mind, that shadow whispered, the boy is changing, but change can be broken. The boy could not sleep that night. He lay in the soft bed, staring at the ceiling, his small hands clutching the blanket tightly. The lesson from earlier replayed in his mind. Stand tall, speak clearly, walk with pride. Yes, he had learned. But even now, even in this safe room, he felt the same uneasy chill, the same cold whisper. Someone was watching. His eyes drifted toward the window. The curtains swayed slightly in the breeze. The garden outside was dark, except for the faint glow of lanterns along the path. He told himself it was nothing. Just the wind. Just his imagination. But deep down, he knew. The man he had seen in the market was real. The hooded figure who had stood so still while everyone else rushed by. That was no dream. The boy closed his eyes, hoping sleep would come. But every sound made him flinch: the creak of the wood, the soft hoot of an owl, the distant bark of a dog. Finally he sat up, restless. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why is he following me?" The next morning, the boy's tired face did not escape the millionaire's notice. At breakfast, the man set down his cup of tea and studied him closely. "You did not sleep well," he said. The boy shook his head. I think someone is outside. Someone watching me." The man's eyes sharpened. For a moment, he said nothing. Then calmly he replied, "Describe him." The boy hesitated. "I only saw him once, at the market. He wore a hood. He didn't move like the others. He just watched." The man leaned back in his chair, silent, thoughtful. Finally he said, "Not all eyes are kind. Some watch to learn. Some watch to harm. But whoever this is, you must not let fear control you. Fear bends the spine. Fear steals your voice. And we are teaching you to stand straight." The boy swallowed hard. He wanted to believe those words. But fear was heavy. Fear was real. That day, the lessons continued: reading simple books, practicing manners, learning how to eat properly with a fork and knife. Yet through it all, the boy's mind wandered back to the hooded figure. Every creak of the door, every flicker of shadow, every passing stranger on the street below. His heart raced. By evening, the man called him into the study. The firelight flickered across the walls as the millionaire stood before the tall window. The boy awoke with heavy eyes. He had barely slept. The memory of last night, the hooded figure standing by the wall, the broken coin glowing in his hand, haunted him. "You are not who you think you are." Those words repeated in his head like an endless echo. He sat up, clutching his half of the coin. His small fingers traced its jagged edge, as if touching it might force the truth to spill out. But the coin remained silent. At breakfast, the millionaire studied him carefully. "You look pale," the man said, sipping his tea. The boy hesitated. Should he tell him? Should he confess that he had left the mansion at night? That he had spoken to the stranger face to face? Fear knotted inside him. The man had warned him not to wander. He had broken that rule, so he lowered his eyes and whispered, "I just didn't sleep." The man's gaze lingered on him, sharp and knowing. But he said nothing more. Instead, he set down his cup. "Your lessons continue today. But no, this discipline is not only in walking, speaking, or learning. It is also in what you hide. Control of words is power." The boy nodded, though guilt burned inside him. That day, the lessons were about memory. The millionaire handed him books filled with dates and events, asking him to recall them again and again. "History is not about the past," the man explained. "It is about patterns. Men repeat mistakes. If you see the pattern, you will know what comes next." But the boy's mind was far away. He kept seeing the hooded face, hearing the broken voice. "You are not who you think you are. What could?" It meant that evening, when the mansion grew quiet, the boy sat alone in the library. The shelves stretched high above him, filled with books he could barely read. He lit a small candle and whispered to himself, "Maybe the answer is here. Maybe the books will tell me." He pulled volumes off the shelves, flipping pages filled with family names, business records, histories of the city. But every word felt heavy, confusing, too far from the truth he was searching for. Frustration welled inside him. He slammed one book shut, the sound echoing across the empty room, and in the echo, he thought he heard something else, a whisper. He froze, slowly. He turned his head toward the window. There beyond the glass stood the hooded man. Watching, the boy's breath caught. He scrambled to his feet, but before he could cry out, the figure raised a hand. Not in threat, but in silence. The boy's heart pounded. Against every warning, against every fear, he hurried out of the library, down the hall, and into the garden once again. The night air was cold, the grass wet under his bare feet. He rushed to the wall where the figure waited. "You came back," the boy whispered. The hooded man's voice was low, steady. "Because you were searching." and I cannot let you search alone." The boy clutched his coin tightly. "Tell me what you mean. You said I'm not who I think I am." "Who am I then?" The hooded man stepped closer, and for the first time, the boy saw his face more clearly. Lines of age marked his skin. His eyes were dark, but behind them lay pain, not cruelty. "Boy," he said softly, "the streets were never meant for you. Hunger was never meant for you. You were taken from a story you do not remember." The boy's lips trembled. "Taken?" The man nodded slowly. He reached into his cloak and pulled out his half of the broken coin. This coin was whole once. It belonged to someone who loved you. When the world broke, so did the coin. The boy's chest tightened. "Who? Who loved me?" The man's voice broke for the first time. "Your family." The boy staggered back, his head spinning. Family. He had never dared to imagine such a thing. The streets had been his only world. Tears filled his eyes. "But I don't remember them. I don't remember anything before the streets." The hooded man's jaw tightened, because memory can be stolen. And in your case, it was. The boy's breath quickened. "Stolen? How could memories be stolen?" The man leaned closer, his whisper sharp. "The millionaire knows more than he tells you. Do not trust every word." The boy froze. "What do you mean?" But before the man could answer, a sharp sound cut through the garden footsteps, fast and heavy. The millionaire's voice thundered across the night. "Enough." The boy spun around. The man was striding toward them, his eyes blazing with fury. The hooded figure stepped back quickly into the shadows. "You dare come here again?" the millionaire roared. "Leave this place, or I will end this myself." The boy turned back to the wall, desperate. "Wait, don't go. Please tell me more." But the hooded man was gone, swallowed by the night. The boy dropped to his knees, sobbing. Small fists pounded the grass. "Why won't anyone tell me the truth?" The millionaire reached him, his face hard, his voice sharp. "Did I not warn you? Did I not tell you to stay away from him?" The boy looked up, tears streaming. "He says I had a family," he says. "You know more than you tell me, is it true?" The first time the millionaire's stern mask cracked. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened, but no answer came. The boy's heart sank. That silence was louder than any word. Finally, the man said only one thing. "You are not ready for the truth." He turned sharply, his coat sweeping behind him. "Come inside now." The boy followed, broken and trembling. But deep inside, fire had begun to burn. He no longer trusted silence. He no longer wanted half answers. The broken coin in his hand was not just metal, it was proof. Proof that somewhere a story waited for him. A family. Truth. And he swore to himself that no matter what it took, he would uncover it. Far beyond the mansion, the hooded man stood alone once more, breathing heavily. His whisper drifted into the night. He deserves to know. But the truth is heavier than he thinks. And when he learns it, his world will never be the same again. The mansion was silent. Too silent, the boy sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the broken coin in his hand. His heart still pounded from the argument in the garden. "You are not ready for the truth." The millionaire's words echoed like a heavy door slamming shut. But why? Why keep the truth from him? Why silence every question? The boy clenched the coin so tightly it cut into his palm. He whispered to himself, "I am ready. I've always been ready. I just need to know." Later that night, the millionaire entered the room. Carried no book, no papers, only a single lamp that cast his face in flickering shadows. "Stand up," he ordered. The boy obeyed, though his small body trembled. The man's sharp eyes studied him for a long time before he finally spoke. "You should not have gone to him. That man is dangerous." The boy's voice cracked. "Dangerous? He said he knew me. Said he knew my family." The millionaire's jaw tightened. He placed the lamp on the table and leaned closer. "Listen carefully. There are truths in this world that wound more than lies. That man, he will twist your mind. He will fill you with questions you cannot yet carry. Do you understand?" The boy shook his head. "No, I don't understand. Why won't you just tell me? Why won't anyone tell me who I am?" The man's eyes softened for only a brief second, then hardened again, because the past is not kind. Once it is opened, it cannot be closed again. The boy swallowed hard. his chest aching. So you admit it. There is something you're hiding. Silence filled the room. The man did not deny it. Instead, he turned and opened a drawer. From within, he pulled out a small box, dark wood polished with age. He set it on the table between them. "This belonged to someone you once knew," the man said quietly. "I had hoped to give it to you later, when you were stronger. But since your patience is broken, you will have a piece now." The boy's hands shook as he opened the box. Inside was a faded photograph. It showed a young woman holding a child. The woman's eyes were warm, her smile soft. The child in her arms was small, wrapped in a blanket. The boy's throat closed. His eyes burned with tears. "Is this me?" The millionaire nodded slowly. "Yes." The boy touched the photo gently, as if the paper might burn away beneath his fingers. "She looks kind. Who is she?" The man's voice dropped low. "She was your mother." The boy's breath caught. For the first time in his life, the word mother carried weight, shape, meaning. He whispered it aloud. "Mother." Tears slid down his cheeks. He wanted to fall into the picture, to feel her arms, to hear her voice. But the paper was flat and silent. "Where is she?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Where's my mother now?" The millionaire's face darkened. His hand tightened on the back of the chair. "Gone." The boy's chest collapsed. "Gone." "She is no longer in this world," the man said coldly, though his eyes flickered with something deeper. "That is all you need to know." The boy shook his head violently. "No, that can't be all. How? Why? Tell me what happened." But the man's face turned into stone. "Enough. You wanted truth. I gave you truth. More will only destroy you." The boy's small fists clenched. "Destroy me? Destroy thee. Lies you've been keeping?" The man's eyes flashed with sudden anger, but he forced himself to stay calm. "You are bold, boy. But boldness without wisdom is fire in dry grass. It spreads fast and burns everything." That night, after the millionaire left, the boy lay awake, staring at the photograph. He traced his mother's face again and again, whispering, "I'll find the rest of the truth, no matter what it costs." And deep inside, another question gnawed at him. If his mother was gone, what about his father? The boy did not sleep that night. The photograph of his mother rested under his pillow, the broken coin clutched in his hand. His heart was pulled in two directions: toward the millionaire, who gave him food and shelter, and toward the hooded man who whispered about family and betrayal. Both spoke of truth. Both warned him against the other. But who was the liar? Who was the betrayer? At breakfast, the millionaire spoke little. He studied the boy with sharp eyes, as if trying to read his thoughts. The boy forced himself to eat, though every bite tasted like ash. Finally, the millionaire said, "Tonight I leave the city. Business calls me away. You will stay here. Do not wander. Do not speak to anyone." The boy's heart jumped. If the man left, then maybe he could speak to the hooded stranger again, but he forced a quiet nod. "Yes, sir." The millionaire's gaze lingered. "Remember, boy, the walls protect you. The world outside hungers to swallow you whole." He rose, leaving the table in silence, the moment the mansion door shut behind him. The boy's pulse quickened. Hours passed, each one heavier than the last. He paced the halls, glanced out the windows, clutched the photograph until his fingers went numb. At last, when night fell, he crept to the garden. The hooded man was already waiting by the wall. As if he had known the boy would come, the boy rushed forward. "Tell me everything. No more pieces. No more half-truths. I want to know what really happened." The man's eyes softened beneath the hood. He lifted his half of the broken coin. "Your mother. She was not just kind, she was powerful. She carried secrets the world wanted to steal, and she trusted someone she should not have. The boy's chest tightened. Who? The hooded man's voice cracked. The very man you live with now. The boy staggered back. His mind spun. No, you're lying. But the man stepped closer, pulling something from beneath his cloak. A letter. The paper was yellowed, its edges torn, its ink faded. He placed it into the boy's trembling hands. Read. The boy held the candle near. His eyes scanned the words, and there it was, his mother's handwriting. If you are reading this, then I fear the man I once trusted has turned against me. I thought he would protect us, but greed has poisoned him. And now I fear he will take my child for himself. The boy's knees buckled. He clutched the letter to his chest, his breath coming in sharp gasps. His mother's words burned like fire inside him. The man who had fed him, clothed him, taught him discipline was the same man his mother had feared, the same man who may have taken him away. No, the boy whispered, tears streaming. No, it can't be true. The hooded figure's voice broke with sorrow. It is true, child. He betrayed her trust. He betrayed you. The boy's hands shook. Rage and grief crashed together in his chest. He remembered the millionaire's cold eyes, his silence when asked about his mother, the way he always shut down the truth. It all made sense now. The boy looked up at the hooded man. Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you protect her? Pain filled the man's face. I tried, but I was too late. By the time I reached her, she was gone. All I could do was save the last piece of her memory. He lifted his half of the coin. The boy clutched his own half, tears dripping onto the metal. For the first time in his life, he felt hatred boil in his chest. Hatred for the man who had taken everything from him. Hatred for the silence, the lies, the control. The hooded man knelt before him, gripping the boy's shoulders. Listen to me. You must be strong. The truth is not only about the past, it is about what comes next. That man believes he can shape you into his tool, but you are not his. You are your mother's son. You belong to a legacy far greater than him. The boy's tears slowed. A spark of determination lit in his eyes. What do I do? He whispered. The hooded man's voice was firm. Wait. Watch. Do not reveal what you know. His mask will slip, and when it does, you will be ready. The boy nodded slowly, clutching the letter and coin. But inside, his heart screamed. How could he live under the same roof as the man who betrayed his mother? The following morning, the millionaire returned. The boy sat silently at the table, the letter hidden deep inside his shirt. The man's sharp eyes studied him. You look different. What changed? The boy forced a small shrug. Nothing, but his heart pounded. He wanted to shout, to throw the letter in the man's face, to demand the truth, yet he swallowed the fire. He remembered the hooded man's words. Wait, watch. So he forced a smile. I'm fine. The millionaire leaned closer, his gaze suspicious. But after a moment, he sat back. Good, he said, because soon your lessons will become harder, and I will see if you are truly worthy of the future I prepare for you. The boy's hands curled into fists under the table. He did not say it aloud, but his heart whispered fiercely, I am not your future. I am hers. That night, as the boy lay in bed, the photograph of his mother pressed to his chest, he repeated the same vow again and again. I will find the truth. I will uncover everything, and I will make him pay for what he did. The broken coin glimmered in the moonlight, as if his mother herself was listening. The boy was no longer just a hungry child from the streets. He was the son of a woman who had been betrayed, and he would not stop until her story on his own was restored. The mansion was quiet again, but the boy's heart was not. The letter from his mother stayed hidden under his mattress. The photograph rested safely in his pocket, and the broken coin never left his hand. Every time he looked at the millionaire now, he no longer saw a savior. He saw a thief of truth, a betrayer. But he remembered the hooded man's warning. Wait. Watch. Do not reveal what you know. So the boy waited. He watched, and slowly began to notice the cracks. The millionaire continued the lessons as usual: numbers, writing history. But sometimes, when the boy asked a question that touched too close to the past, the man's hand would twitch. His jaw would tighten. His voice would sharpen like a blade. The boy never missed it. One afternoon, the boy pointed to a map hanging on the wall. "Where was I born?" he asked carefully. The millionaire's eyes narrowed. His reply was quick, too quick. "Here, in the city." But his gaze shifted to the side for just a moment. A crack. The boy stored it in his memory. Another day, during dinner, the boy asked, "Did you know my mother?" The fork slipped from the man's hand. It clattered loudly against the plate. For a second, his face showed something: Rogalt, pain, anger. But then the mask returned. His voice was calm again. "I knew her. Everyone knew her. She was remarkable." The boy leaned forward. "What happened to her?" The man's hand gripped his glass so tightly it nearly shattered. He forced a thin smile. "She fell to misfortune. That is all." Another crack. The boy's stomach twisted. The letter's words echoed in his mind. "I fear the man I once trusted has turned against me." The cracks were growing larger. That night, the boy sneaked into the library again. He searched the shelves, the drawers, the cabinets. He was looking for anything, any paper, any photo, any letter that could tie the millionaire to his mother. Hours passed. His small hands trembled as he turned pages, shuffled documents, opened boxes. Then he found it. A locked drawer. His heart raced. He tugged at it, but it would not move. He searched the desk until he found a small silver key. With trembling hands, he turned it. The lock clicked. Inside were papers sealed in envelopes, and on the very top, a familiar name. His mother's name. The boy's breath caught. He reached for it, but suddenly a shadow fell over him. The millionaire stood in the doorway. "What?" the man said in a cold, thunderous voice. "Are you doing?" The boy froze, his hand inches from the envelope. His throat tightened. I was just searching." The man interrupted, his voice sharper than ever. He stepped inside, his footsteps echoing like hammer strikes. The boy backed away slowly. I couldn't sleep." The man's eyes burned with fury. "So you break into my private drawer?" The boy's heart pounded. He wanted to shout the truth, wanted to throw the letter in the man's face and demand answers. But the hooded man's warning rang in his ears. "Do not reveal what you know." So he swallowed his rage and stammered, "I'm sorry. I was curious." The millionaire stared at him for a long, tense moment. Then slowly, his lips curved into a thin smile. But it was not warm. It was sharp, dangerous. "Curiosity," he said softly, "can be fatal." He slammed the drawer shut and locked it again. The boy's knees shook. The mask had slipped. For just a moment, the man's anger was raw, unhinged. And the boy now knew for certain his mother's name was buried in those papers. After that night, the mansion felt different. The millionaire watched the boy more closely. Every glance was sharper, every word heavier. The boy felt the walls closing in, but he played his part. He smiled when told to. He studied when ordered. He acted like nothing was wrong inside, though. He was counting the cracks. He was waiting for the mask to fall completely. One evening, a storm swept through the city. Rain hammered against the mansion windows. Thunder roared across the sky. The boy sat in his room, clutching the broken coin. The photograph of his mother lay before him. Suddenly, he heard voices in the hall. The millionaire was speaking to someone. His tone was low, angry. The boy crept to the door, pressing his ear against it. Through the storm, he caught fragments. The boy suspects. Not yet ready. If he finds out, then silence. The boy's blood turned cold. If he finds out what? His fists clenched. His heart screamed. The mask was slipping faster now, and soon the truth would break free. Later that night, when the mansion grew quiet again, the boy whispered to himself, "I know you betrayed her, and I will find the proof." He held the coin tight. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the photograph of his mother. Her eyes seemed to watch him through the storm, and he vowed once more, "I will not stop until the truth is mine." But he did not know that the next move would not be his. It would be the millionaire's. And when the mask slipped completely, the boy's world would never be the same again. The storm had passed, but inside the boy, the thunder still raged. He could not forget the words he had overheard. The boy suspects. If he finds out, those words scratched at his mind all night. He stared at the ceiling, clutching the broken coin, whispering to himself, "I must find out. I must." The locked drawer, his mother's name, the millionaire's anger. Everything pointed to the same place. The truth was inside that drawer. The next day, the millionaire acted as though nothing had happened. He gave the boy tasks, taught lessons, and lectured him on discipline. But his eyes lingered too long. His words carried hidden weight. The boy noticed every detail. That night, when the mansion grew quiet, the boy made his move. He crept into the library once again. His bare feet padded softly across the cold floor. The drawer waited for him, locked as before. But this time, the boy was ready. He had seen where the millionaire kept the key inside a small box in the desk. With trembling fingers, he opened it and found the silver key glinting in the moonlight. His heart pounded as he slid it into the lock. Click. The drawer opened. Inside, stacks of papers lay tied with string. Some yellowed with age. Others more recent. The boy's eyes darted across names, dates, signatures. Then he saw his mother's name again. He pulled out the envelope and tore it open. Inside were letters. Some written by her, others addressed to her. His eyes widened as he read. "I fear for my child. You promised to keep us safe, but I feel danger closer each day if you betray us. Then all I have left will be lost." Tears filled the boy's eyes. His mother had begged for safety, pleaded for trust, and all the letters were addressed to the same person, the millionaire. The boy's breath stopped. His hands shook. The letters slipped from his grip and scattered across the floor. She had trusted him. She had warned him. She had feared him, and he had betrayed her. The boy's world shattered. But it wasn't just letters. Deeper in the drawer, the boy found something else. A document stamped with seals. Marked with official writing, he read slowly. Stumbling through the words, "Adoption papers." His name was written there. His identity, and beside it the millionaire's signature, the boy's throat tightened. He hadn't been rescued from the streets. He had been claimed, taken like property. His hands trembled so badly, paper nearly tore. "I was never his son," he whispered. "I was his prize." Suddenly, a shadow fell over the papers. The boy froze. He looked up slowly. The millionaire stood in the doorway. His face was calm, but his eyes were fire. So he said softly, "You finally opened the drawer." The boy stumbled back, the papers clutched in his hands. "You lied. You said you saved me, but you stole me. You betrayed my mother." The man stepped closer, his voice cold and sharp. "Careful, boy. You speak of things you cannot yet understand." The boy's tears streamed down his cheeks. "I understand enough. You took me away from her. You let her die." The millionaire's jaw tightened, but his mask did not break. "She was weak. She trusted the wrong people. I did what had to be done." The boy's chest heaved. "What had to be done? You destroyed her." The man leaned closer, his voice a whisper like venom. "I saved you. Without me, you would have died in the streets like the others. You live because of me." The boy's fists clenched. "No, I live because of her. Because she loved me. Not because of you." For the first time, the man's mask cracked fully. His eyes blazed with something wild: anger, fear, desperation. You think love feeds you? You think love teaches you strength? Love is weakness. And weakness killed her. The boy's breath caught. The words pierced him like knives. His mother's love had been pure, strong, real. But this man twisted it into weakness. The boy's small voice rose with fury. No, love is not weakness. It is the only strength that matters. The millionaire's face darkened. Then you are still a fool. And fools do not survive long. He snatched the papers from the boy's hands and slammed the drawer shut. Enough of this. Your lessons will change. No more questions. No more digging. You will obey or you will lose everything. The boy's chest burned with rage, but he bit his tongue. The hooded man's warning echoed in his mind. Do not reveal what you know. Wait. Watch. So he lowered his head and whispered, Yes, sir, but inside. His heart roared with defiance. He had the truth now, and nothing could silence it. That night, the boy lay in bed, the photograph pressed to his chest. His tears soaked the pillow, but his eyes burned with fire. I know now, Mother, he whispered. I know what he did. I will never forgive him, and I will never stop until your name is cleared. The broken coin glimmered in the moonlight. As if answering his vow, the mansion's dark secret was no longer hidden, and the boy was no longer the same child who had once walked the streets with only a few coins. Now, he carried something far more dangerous, the truth. But in the darkness of the mansion, the millionaire sat alone at his desk. Staring at the scattered papers he had snatched back, his hands trembled as he lit a candle and whispered to himself, The boy knows too much. If he keeps searching, I may lose everything. His face hardened. If he wants the truth, then let him find it. But the truth will break him before it breaks me. And with that, he extinguished the flame. The mansion sank back into silence. But the silence was no longer safe. It was the silence before the storm. The mansion no longer felt like a home. Every wall, every shadow, every hallway whispered lies. The boy carried the weight of truth in his heart, but he carried it in silence. The millionaire watched him closely, every glance sharp, every word a warning, but the boy did not break. He waited. He remembered the hooded man's words. Wait, watch. When the time comes, the truth will free you. And that time was coming. Days passed. The millionaire forced the boy into harsher lessons and less drills, cold lectures, and punishments for the smallest mistakes. It was as if the man wanted to crush the boy's spirit, but each punishment only made the boy stronger. Each harsh word only reminded him of his mother's gentle voice. He clung to her memory. To the broken coin, to the photograph hidden under his pillow, they were his shield. One evening, a grand gathering was held at the mansion. Important men and women arrived in shining cars. Servants filled the halls with food and drink. The boy stood silently in a corner. Forced to watch, the millionaire moved among the guests like a king. His smile was wide, his words smooth, his charm flawless. To them, he was a savior, a man of wealth and honor. But the boy knew the mask. He knew the monster, hiding behind it, and as he watched the man laugh with his guests, something inside the boy snapped. The truth could no longer stay hidden. Not tonight. Later. When the guests gathered in the great hall, the millionaire raised a glass. My friends, he declared, you know me as a man of strength and success, but tonight I want you to see something more. He beckoned the boy forward. This child, he continued, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder, was nothing but a beggar when I found him. I gave him shelter. I gave him food. I gave him a future. The guests clapped. Some nodded with admiration. The boy's fists clenched. His throat burned. The lies rang in his ears like thunder, and suddenly, he could not stay silent any longer. He stepped forward, his small voice cutting through the applause. No. The room grew still. The millionaire's smile faltered. What did you say? The boy lifted his chin, his eyes blazing. No, You didn't save me. You stole me. Gasps filled the hall. The millionaire's face darkened. Enough, he said sharply. Do not embarrass yourself. But the boy's voice grew stronger. You lied to them. You lied to me? My mother begged you for safety and you betrayed her. I saw the letters. I saw the papers. You took me for yourself. The guests whispered in shock. The millionaire's mask cracked. His hand trembled as he gripped the glass tighter. You don't know what you speak of, he growled. The boy pulled the broken coin from his pocket and held it high. The silver glinted in the chandelier light. My mother gave me this, he cried. Her love kept me alive when I had nothing, and her words live in me still. You can burn her letters, you can hide her name, but the truth will not die. The hall was silent. The millionaire's mask shattered completely. His voice rose in fury. She was weak. He shouted. She trusted the wrong people. She could not protect you. I did what she could not. The guests recoiled. Some stepped back. The boy's tears streamed, but his voice was steady. No, she loved me. And love is not weakness. It is the only strength that matters. The room trembled with the weight of his words. The millionaire's chest heaved. His eyes darted across the shocked faces of his guests. For the first time, he was not in control. The truth had broken free. The boy's knees shook, but he stood tall. You wear masks and call it power, but masks always fall. And yours has fallen tonight. The millionaire's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Silence followed, heavy, unbreakable, until one voice rose from the crowd. Anne. Older man stepped forward, his face pale. Is this true? He asked the millionaire. Did you steal this child? Did you betray his mother? The millionaire's lips parted, but no words came. His mask was gone. His lies had no place to hide. The boy's gaze never left him. His mother's memory gave him strength, and the truth, once hidden, now filled the hall like fire. That night, everything changed. The boy was no longer just a child in the shadows of a mansion. He was a voice of truth, a witness of betrayal. The millionaire, once untouchable, now stood exposed before those who once praised him. And the boy knew one thing for certain. His mother's love had not died. It had lived on in him, and it had given him the strength to break free. Later, as the mansion grew quiet again, the boy sat alone by the window, the broken coin in his hand. He whispered into the night, I did it, Mother. They know now. He can never hide again. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, and for the first time in a long while, the boy felt a peace inside his heart. The truth was his, and it would never be stolen again.